из Нидерландов. Также тема доклада в какой-то степени загадочная. Занимательные истории Аристотеля для годы.
Добрый день. Как ваши дела? That's about everything I could find on Google Translate. Меня зовут Jeroen. That was the other part. Today, I want to talk to you about Aristotle's storytelling framework for the web. And storytelling is a subject that is really important for me. And for the past years, I've been trying to explore this subject. And I want to go through this framework together with you. So first of all, meet Aristotle. This is not his real face, it's a stone version, of course. He lived 300 BC, and he was a pretty cool guy. He knew a lot of stuff. And he lived in a place we now call ancient Greece. And it was a much happier place back then than it is nowadays. At least I think so. And it was the epicenter of modern thinking. And everything in the world that we know of, a lot of the knowledge was created over there. And now a lot of money goes there and disappears. And we call him nowadays a polymath. And a polymath is somebody who knows his stuff. He knows a lot of stuff about many different subjects. And these are some of the subjects that he specializes in. It ranges from zoology to linguistics to rhetoric, logic, poetry. And the interesting thing is that by knowing some information about one field, he could use this knowledge in looking at a new field. And you can really see this broadness in his knowledge helps him to analyze many different fields, and especially rhetoric helps him a lot. And if you don't believe Aristotle has authority, then you think his teacher does, Plato. So I think Plato, he's also a smart guy, and they had a lot of discussions together. And they didn't always agree, and I personally don't always agree with them, but that's okay. I don't think I'm on the same level though. And one of the pieces that Aristotle wrote is this one. And this is a more beautiful cover than the one you can buy in the store. So it's better for a presentation. And this is called Poetics. Who has read Poetics? Exactly. It's not a big book. I think it's 40 pages, so it's doable. It's an essay. And in Poetics, he analyzes Greek tragedy. And by analyzing Greek tragedy, he wanted to understand why is Greek tragedy so strong? Why is it so good? And by analyzing this, he consciously or unconsciously defines the basic elements of storytelling. And by defining these elements, he created a structure that nowadays is still being used by all storytellers. They are the golden rules of storytelling, and if you understand them, you can create good stories yourself. So I started reading this, and I read a lot of stuff that I just find on Amazon, that Amazon recommends to me, and I believe Amazon, of course. So I bought this one and I read it, and then I started thinking, how can I use this knowledge in my field? And so I tried to understand it, and that's where I want to go through with you today. So these are the 6 elements. They are plot, character, thought, fiction, song, and spectacle. And what Aristotle did, and he helped me a lot, and a lot of people, is he prioritized them. So he says plot is the most important one, and spectacle is the least important one. And if you build up a story going through each of these steps, you have a very strong base, a very strong story. And what I will do is I will go through each of these elements and try to explain the element to you, what it means, what Aristotle meant by it, how it's being used in movies. I love movies. And then how I would use it in the design of interactive products, of web products. But of course I had to change 2 elements. I had to have a bit of a discussion with Aristotle. So I changed these 2. I changed thought into theme, and song into rhythm. And when I come to these elements, I will explain to you why I did this. But I think in essence it's still the same, but it's easier to explain for me, because I'm not a polymath. So, this is the best animation I've got. Let's dive into the details. You see the metaphor? So the first element is plot. And plot is the most important one. And Aristotle has a beautiful quote, and I hope they translate it correctly. Plot is the soul of a tragedy. It's of the essence that it arouses emotion in the psyche of the audience. I love this quote. It's almost poetry. And what is more important than the soul? There is nothing more important. What is a person without a soul? And I believe that products and services and everything we interact with should have a soul, because we should care enough to want to interact with it. So if you pull the soul from it, it's nothing. It's a zombie. And I don't want to interact with zombies. So this is what he says is the most important thing. And I want to explain it by showing you movie examples. And at first, I love sci-fi movies. I went to the Space Museum yesterday, and besides my guides, I was the only adult over there. But my wife told me, no, you have to build up a relationship with the audience. People have to like you. And not everybody likes sci-fi movies. So she told me, tell the tale of the classic love story, and people will like you. And the women will like you especially. So if my wife tells me that, I trust her. So I had to do some research. And I had to watch all these love stories, and of course I never watched them. Guys watch love stories. Unfortunately, I don't know many Russian love stories, so these are mainly American and English. What is the plot of Notting Hill? If you go to Internet Movie Database, or if you go to Wikipedia, you get a story like this, and it continues before below. And what it basically does, it goes through all the main events of the story. So it tells you basically what the story is all about without all the details. And I would take one step back and say, this is the more important thing, the love story plot structure. Unfortunately, Marco Berensen did some research for me, so I didn't have to look at all the movies. And she came up with 13 different love plot structures. And if you look at them, you immediately start to recognize the movies. The Forbidden Love, Brokeback Mountain. It's an American movie about two guys who want to fall in love with each other, but it's forbidden, it's not allowed. That's the Forbidden Love. The Love Triangle, who's seen Pearl Harbor, the movie? Okay, it's very American. Oh, okay, some have seen it. Okay, I thought it's an American story, but American War. So. The love story is two guys who have a brotherly love. And together they fall in love with the same woman. And you get a strange love triangle where there's a lot of tension going on. That's this structure. And the one women love the most, guys, this is a tip, always go to the happily ever after love story. And women are always surprised that it's happily ever after, but we guys know this. And they go happy to their home. So that's good. And happily ever after love story, that's the Notting Hill structure. And most love stories have the happily ever after love story structure. And by using this plot, this soul, people understand what they can expect, and they feel comfortable about it. And it's proven that it works. So for me, this is the plot structure of Notting Hill. Two people who would normally never meet each other suddenly bump into each other, and then fall in love with each other. Oh, your girlfriend is happy now. You're sitting next to her, and you're like, oh, when does the fighting start? And suddenly, things start to get interesting for us because things start to go wrong. That's good. And your girlfriend is panicking right now. She's like, oh no, this will never be okay. And you know what's going to happen. Because through a series of strange events, in the last 5 minutes, they bump into each other again, and they live happily ever after. And you go home with a happy life. So that's good. This is the plot of nothingness. So what does this have to do with web? I can understand that you wonder about it. What is the plot of a website? Who knows Zappos? Okay. Zappos is, I need something. Zappos is an American website. Oh, I shouldn't do that in this. And it sells clothing. And a lot of websites sell clothes. But it is special. And this is the log story. So Jane loves buying clothes, but she doesn't have a lot of time. And when she goes shopping, she always gets frustrated because the clothes that she wants to buy, they don't fit. And then in the end, after 3 hours of shopping, she doesn't buy any clothes and she goes home again and has to wait when she has time again. And then through a series of events, she comes across Zappos. And Zappos says, hey girl, I like you. And I've got a deal for you. I know you're stressed, and I'm going to help you. Because if you can come to my place and you can select all the clothes you want for free. I will send them over to you, and you have 365 days to check them out if you like them. And if they don't fit, if you don't like them, if you secretly wore them during a party and want to send them back, you can do that. And you get your money back. You don't have to pay. But the clothes that you bought, that you keep, you have to pay for them. And they live happily ever after. That's a good love story. That's the plot of this website. Another website is 9292. This is a website I worked on. So now I'm actually telling the truth because the other one I had to come up with. I think that's the love story. 9292 is this is actually the love story. Now I think of it. That's an accident. But 9292 is the public transport website of the Netherlands. So it gives you door-to-door information on where to travel, what you have to pay, etc., etc. And we completely redesigned the brand and all the products. And the love story of this website, I think you can come up with it. It's Eric is going to travel to his girlfriend, and he wants to be sure that he's there on time. And he just doesn't want to have any fun, and he doesn't want to remember all the details. So he basically wants to say, I want to go from here to my girlfriend as soon as possible. And 9292 tells him, okay, just tell me once who your girlfriend is, where she lives, and next time you can just tell me, I want to go from my home, from where I am right now, to my girlfriend, and I will help you along the way. So 9292 cares about you, wants to build up a relationship and wants to help you. Eric follows this and says, okay, I want to go now to my girlfriend. He plans the trip. He gets to his girlfriend on time, or when there is a delay, 9292 will communicate and say, there's a 5-minute delay, call your girlfriend. And they become friends in the end. So that's also a good story. So basically the plot for a website is a product goal combined with a user need. And never, ever, 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 was it translated 5 times in Russian as well? I hope so. Never take any step in the design process before there is a relationship between the product goal and the user needs. And too often clients come to us with a request and we just want to help them. We just want to make them feel good. But we don't have a match between these two. It's just an idea of a CEO wanting some feature or some goal to be reached. So in the framework, this is the soul of the plot. Start here. Then we get the second circle, and you only go there when the plot is correct. And it's got 2 elements. One element is character, and the other one is called theme. I'll start with character. Another quote by Aristot, and it's the most beautiful colors will not give as much pleasure as the chalk outline of a portrait. Poetry again. I like reading it. But what does it mean? I had to think about this for quite some time, to be honest, and I couldn't come up with what he meant until I looked at Google Images. and I looked for Greek tragedy, and I came across this image. And it's from lovesicily.com. It's a promo to go see a Greek tragedy. And then I started to understand, because I've never seen a Greek tragedy. But in Greek tragedy, you don't see, I mean, in modern day theater, you've got these beautiful colors, these stages that look like they're real. You have entire forests and airplanes on stage. But in Greek tragedy, everything is brought back to the essence. So there's no background, there's only the people. No colors in their clothing, only the emotions in their body, on their faces. Back in ancient Greece, they used huge masks with smiles or unhappy faces or angry faces, just to bring across the emotions. And you can see that she is in pain, she's in agony. And people around her, you can feel the emotion, and that's the importance of the character. So in storytelling, you've got several levels of character. And the most important ones are primary and secondary. It's pretty obvious for the names. Lost already. Who's seen Titanic? Yeah, guys, come on, your hands, yeah, exactly. I've seen it. I'm not going to sing the song, though. So the primary characters are the heroes of the story, whose actions determine the plot. They have so much influence by what they do that the structure of the plot, they decided. So Kate and Leonardo actually made the Titanic sink. That's what I would say. No, I don't think so. I think in this story, they basically decided the love story. And it's pretty obvious that as designers, our main goal is always with the user. So the primary characters are the users. Pretty obvious. But then we come to the more interesting part. The ones we don't focus on so often. The secondary characters. They aren't always negative. Who remembers this guy? Exactly. He's an asshole. What's a Russian word for that? I should have the earpiece right now. Secondary characters are supporting roles, and they provide the main character with information, material goods, anything that is needed for the primary characters to do what they should do. If he wouldn't have been an asshole, okay, I heard the word again. I'm sorry. In America, it would not be allowed to use this word. Here I'll try. In the Netherlands, we can. If he wouldn't have been a bad guy, then Kate would have never left him. He's got money. And if he would have been okay and Leonardo would have been super, then she would have stayed with okay. But because he was so bad, and because he almost hit her, and because he hated Leonardo, she was driven towards Leonardo, and they didn't live happily ever after. So the secondary characters are these guys. They are the brands. When we design products, we should also pay a lot of attention to the brands. Who are they? What do they want? What do they want to achieve? How do they compete with other brands in the market? And what makes them different from these other brands? Maybe one brand of cars wants to more focus on the top guys, while another brand of cars wants to more focus on family, on the family situation. So you should be conscious about this. How will these characters influence the total structure? So there we go again, 1992. Imagine that the plot that you just heard about, bring somebody from door to door to wherever you want, your girlfriend, the theater, etc., etc. What would happen if the primary character would be kids? What would this do to the structure, to the plot, to your design solutions? Imagine if it would be elderly people or visually impaired. Think what would happen if it would be car drivers. That's an interesting one. So if it would be car drivers, I would more focus on trying to persuade them to get out of that stinking car. And for book lovers, I would more focus on trying to influence them on getting a longer trip if they've got a big book. if they read Tolstoy's War and Peace. Then they need a long trip. The other one is also interesting. What happens if you select one of these? It doesn't matter which one. And the secondary character would be Gretel. How does it influence the design process compared to the government? What design solutions would you make? Or IKEA, the BBC, etc. So for 9292, we said we are not focusing on getting new users. We're focusing on the current public transport people. So that saves us a lot of time on informing them of certain parts, but we especially focus on visually impaired. We want to help them as well. So that really has a lot of impact on the design. And the secondary character is the brand we basically designed ourselves. That was easy, 9292. So character for the web. Primary users, secondary brand. Oh, sorry. I saw somebody writing. It's online, by the way. The theme. Another quote. Theme refers to the set of locations where the story takes place. The history, the rules of the world. So this can be an airplane, this can be a spaceship, this can be Middle Earth with all the hobbits and all the stuff that can happen over there. A lot of things can happen over there. I know. So this is really important. It has a big influence on the story. Notting Hill takes place in, I don't exactly remember. I think it was the 90s, somewhere in the 90s in Notting Hill, London. So all the rules of that world apply. It was the atmosphere of London, and people could not fly. No special effects happened, so it was pretty obvious. World War II for Pearl Harbor, and suddenly, this is a different basic love story structure. But if it would have been the same structure, so if it would have been the happily ever after, then World War II would have set a different world. So there was tension. You have the feeling that you can die each second, and that you have to love each other at that point because there may never be another moment. So it totally influences the story. This is a love story. Wall-E. It's 800 years from now, so the entire theme changes again. Okay, there's my sci-fi. I have a bit of sci-fi. This is there is a love story. There is a happily ever after love story in Star Wars. And I think they hate each other after this, but at the end they love each other. This is a strong moment. So for 9292, what is the theme? Now you see the end result. When we start with the plot, then we start with the character, and now we work on the theme. And we didn't have the design yet. So if you take it one step back, the way I look at theme is looking at slogans. Slogans of companies, if they do it well, at least, give you a good idea of the world, of the theme that they try to create. So what would a website, a public transport website, for visually impaired and current public transport people look like? If the slogan would be just do it. Or if it would be think different. What would the world, or what kind of solutions would you as a designer or a client come up with if we love to see you smile? Then all of a sudden, if this would be the world, the setting that you create, and you would try to make people smile. So if you give them the best advice possible, you would wink at them and say, okay, this is actually the best, and you would give them an extra present. We try harder. Then you would show that maybe, airlines do this a lot. So they show that they're going through all the databases, trying to compare 500,000 different airline databases, and in the end they give you the best. That's the we try harder theme. And we have 9292, we travel with you. So of course these are the brands that are connected to it. And we travel with you means that if you want to travel with me as a website, and I am your friend, and during the process, if you have questions, if you have doubts, I will be holding your hand if you want me to. And I will give you the information at that moment. And by creating this theme, this concept, you can start discussing with the client how you want them to do different things, how you want them to set up their architecture around this possibility, around these rules, to facilitate this friendship, this being there on every possible moment, giving certain information. So for 9292, some of the stuff that we did, that we travel with you helped us with, was coming up with just two fields, from and to. It seems pretty obvious because everybody thinks Google, every client says, I want to be at Google. You heard this probably. But putting everything in one field and giving you the good answers is pretty difficult. And before we created this website, you had to fill in 3 form fields here, 3 here, and you had to decide whether it was a train station or an address or whatever. And the developer said it was impossible to change this. So we started with the plot, building up the characters, building up the theme, basically saying, if you want people to feel comfortable with you, they do not have to learn your system. You have to learn what they want. And they don't want to go from station X to address Y. They want to go from their home to their mother, from their mother to their girlfriend, from the girlfriend to the cinema to watch love stories. Or sci-fi movies. My wife loves sci-fi. So the stuff we came up with in the design solutions were stuff like this. So in scanning the page, we always have a blue bar on top that gives a summary of the page to guide you, because there's a lot of public transport information. And just by putting on top, people scan it like this. So 9292, this is the journey advice, price, and extra information. And then they already get an overview of whether this page is going to help them. And by clicking on it, they can dive into the details they want. And those are the small extra features that we come up with based upon the theme. So this is the concept. So if you look at the structure again, you've got a plot in the center, and you've got 2 elements around it, character and theme. And only then we can move on to the 3rd layer. And the 3rd layer is the one where most of us, most clients like to start. It's the easiest one to start. It consists of diction, rhythm, and spectacle. And one of my frustrations, at least in the Netherlands and in the US and the countries I visited, I don't know about Russia, on universities, they mainly focus on this ring, on learning you to design the end result, not learning you the process before it. So a lot of people and clients also focus on the outer ring and just want to see results as soon as possible without thinking about the essence, about the soul. So let's start with diction. Diction is an expression of meaning in words. Casablanca. You can immediately feel the atmosphere. You can see the theme. You can. These are the primary characters, and all these things define the diction. So the way they talk to each other, the words they use, are very romantic, very 50s style, American 50s style, I think. And when you look at websites, and you look at the tone of voice of websites, this is one deal a day website. So every day you've got one product and you can buy it or you don't buy it. And this is just a generic one. So you have the title, product information, buy it now, this deal ends in so many days, product info. It doesn't really have a personality, it doesn't have its own diction. They've got woods.com. That's one that's different. Here they decided that they have the same plot structure as the other one. They have different characters. They focus more on, I don't know if they heard a Russian word for that, hipsters. I don't know if you can translate it. And the entire tone of voice, so the theme is more fun, it's more engaging. Instead of buy it now, it's I want one. I want it now. And here it gives a really funny description of the product that's almost like a joke. It says them realtors, they sold us a real dog of a house. It's nothing more than a thin room followed by 3 beams. It doesn't have anything to do with the product itself. But the entire theme, the entire structure, decided that the people, the characters they focus on really want it. They want to have a smile on their face, and then they buy this product. Now for the target audience, this works really well. So Woo.com is a real success. And there's a difference in addiction. The White House, the tone of voice, your weekly address, it's totally different from the tone I would write on 9292. The photography, they have a house photographer, of course. Diction is also in photography, so the choice of photos that you take, and at the White House, there are experts in this. So it's a bottom-up photo of him, and I mean, he looks old when you don't have a good photographer. But with the lighting and everything, he looks almost like a ruler, like a hero. And so we the people, this is also the diction. So it's really in the details, so think about it. There we go again. 9292 is Dutch, so I can tell you anything. But here we started talking about where do you want to go? Most websites say, please say, plan your journey. But in the entire conversations, we say, hello, where do you want to go today? This is the best advice for you. Oh, something is going wrong during this trip. We try to help you as best as possible. So we try to make it more human. And also in the photography, we do this. So we set up basic rules on what kind of photography we should use. Don't show the transport system itself. Show people who want to travel somewhere. Because you don't care about the bus. You don't care about the looks of the metro. You care about reaching your end goal. And this you just reached your end goal. But this is diction. Diction is the tone and style. And a lot of times, and that's really my frustration, when a client comes to us, the designer opens up Photoshop, and he starts with this. He just basically starts looking for the correct fonts. He comes up with nice photography and stuff. But he should start with the plot, theme, and character. Then we've got rhythm. That's a regular recurrence and a pattern in time. I'm really bad at doing this sound effect. Okay, another point. So you've got this movie, and in movies you've got the Pavlov effect. The Pavlov effect, I don't know if you know about it. So if you learned that A results in B, then the next time you hear A, you think B will happen. And people use this in movies a lot. So I'm going to do the sound effect now. I'm not so good at it. I should have used the MP3. Okay. Who's seen Jaws? This isn't a love story. Nobody saw Jaws? Oh, yeah, okay. Mainly guys now. Jaws. This sound effect is a bit better in the movie. At the beginning of the story, you learn that if you hear this sound, a shark will come and bite people in two. So, in the rest of the movie, they use this sound effect to give you goosebumps. And not always a shark will show up, but the Pavlov effect kicks in. And we use this as well. Usability people are really into this. This is a long quote. Good luck with your translation. Most interactions have an underlying rhythm. The best such experiences induce a state of flow, during which users get into such a groove that the mechanics of operating the program disappear, allowing users to focus entirely on meaning. That's what Peter Stahl said at Interaction 11. So by creating the Pavlov effect, by creating things that people understand and remember, you get into the flow. I think we use this most of the time. Nike.com. They recently changed their website. I think it's not an improvement, but I don't know. It's before this website, they had like 30 different websites, and you didn't know where you were. You didn't understand exactly if it was Nike. It was different everywhere, different typography, different photography, different structures. So what they did is they created an overall structure while keeping the separate identities. This is the main structure, and on top, If you go to Nike running, you get the same basic structure, but its own sub-navigation. But you still recognize it, but it has its own identity. Nike soccer, again, same basic structure. You recognize that this is Nike. You know that you're not lost, you're not panicking. At least I wasn't. And it's the same structure. We do this across websites. These are design patterns. This is Amazon, the lists with prices below, the top lists. This is the Dutch website, bol.com, same setup. This one you recognize probably. You also use they also use the same patterns because they know the public effect kicks in. People recognize by seeing just this image. They don't even have to read anything. They don't have to care about anything. They know this is an e-commerce webshop. I can buy stuff here. We did this as well with 9292. Over all the context. So we went across products. So we did the website, the mobile site, recently launched the apps. But even on Twitter, even on the phone, when you call them, we designed the systems that the people behind the phone interact with, so that all the touch points, and this is service design, so that all the touch points have the same effect, so that you get the same information, same structure. And within the website, you use the basic same structure. I think most of you know this stuff. So rhythm is usability and design pattern. That's the stuff we know. And then spectacle. Who's a graphic designer? I won't put your hand up now. One. Only one. You're probably the good one. I like it as well, to be honest. Spectacle is doing the nice stuff. It implies an organization of appearances that are simultaneously enticing, that's positive, deceptive, neutral, distracting, that becomes a bit negative, and superficial, even more negative. There is a danger in spectacle. This is spectacle. Avatar. It's a love story as well, by the way, and an action movie and a sci-fi movie. And what you see here is that this movie, all the budget went into spectacle, into creating these characters. And people loved it back then, but I'm pretty sure that when you look at the top 50 movies in 10 years, Avatar will not be in it. The spectacle is the best ever done up until that moment. So the graphic designers, in general, the designers, the 3D designers were happy. But the plot of the story and the depth of the characters was very shallow, it was not so good. So they could come up with the most cool effects, but it doesn't really make an impact in the end, in the long run. Who knows this website, newzealand.com? Newzealand.com is a website from the Tourism Office of New Zealand to promote New Zealand. And this is the website that was launched. And in my company and the design industry, people love this. Look at the awesome stop motion effect. This is what we can do now with the web. And won a lot of design prizes. A lot. And everybody was saying how cool it was. And even I wanted to make this website. But when I started looking at it and I started to think, what is the plot? What does the client want to reach? What goal? They want to get more people to New Zealand. They don't want to win design prizes. That's not their goal. And when you look at it, there's no incentive, there's no call to action to go to New Zealand. It's just all cool stuff. It's spectacle. So what I basically said on conferences and in discussions is this website, how cool it may be, and congratulations with your design prizes, it will not help the client. And a week ago, I'm not lying, I checked out the website because I wanted to show it. This is a new website. And it looks like an older website because it's not so cool. It's not focused on spectacle. But you can see a lot of rhythm coming back. It's got a classical main navigation. It's got a header image. It's got a top 10. How boring is that for a designer to come up with? I mean, as an interaction designer, I'm like, okay, top 10 again. This is what people want. This This is the way you get people to New Zealand, better than creating spectacle. But if you build it up correctly, you start with the plot, theme, character, and everything around it, then of course you can create spectacle, you can create cool stuff. But the essence should be strong. So spectacle for a website is the graphic design and the UI special effects, the sci-fi. And then we get to the end, to the entire framework. Again, plot, character and theme. And you start with the plot, then character and theme, and there's a bit of interaction between these layers. And only then, don't start earlier, you go to the third one. And I was creating this framework based on this list, and I was looking at it, and I was thinking of the design process. And suddenly I started writing words in it. And actually, without noticing it, I found out something different, because the plot is a strategic level. That's the level where you talk with the client about what direction are we going to. And the second layer is the technical level. That's where you know, okay, this is the main direction we're taking. This is more the specific direction for this case. And this is the operational level. This is just putting the dots on the Y and making sure it looks good and that it functions. And this is our design process. We should not start at the operational level, always pull back to the strategic. So that's basically the storytelling framework and the way I look at design and I look at the interactive product. And I hope by showing you this framework that I at least gave you some impression of how I work, and I hope I learned you a little bit, at least the Russian word for hipster. So thank you very much, and maybe you've got questions.
Спасибо, Джерон, не только за интересный, но в какой-то степени и веселый доклад. Вопросы, пожалуйста.
Спасибо за доклад большое. Скажите, пожалуйста, а сколько по времени занимает проработка каждого уровня? И как вы начинаете, собственно говоря, проработку уровня? С каких вопросов? С каких задач? Спасибо.
Well, put it down now. So it really depends on the type of project, but you should take as long on the strategic phase as it takes for you and the client to understand it. So most of the times clients have a tight budget and they want to move on, they want to have results. But simply say, as a designer, it's impossible for me to come up with a solution for you that works before I understand it. So this takes as long as needed, but of course within the budget that's reasonable. And then you move on, and this is basically the biggest part. So let's say if this takes 1 week, then this part takes 2 weeks, and this takes 2 months. Something in that equivalent.
Спасибо. Еще вопросы?
Thanks. How does this process correlate with modern techniques like agile, lean UX, and all these modern approaches when it's iterative all the time?
Yeah.
So how do you correlate this?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. At our company, we use agile a lot, and combined with UX. So I have to explain a bit about agile, but you've got Sprint Zero, which is basically the start of the agile project. And for us, before Sprint Zero, you've got the strategic phase. So you first talk with the client about the plot. Then you say, okay, we've got a shared understanding, and we want to go on with this project. Then you go to character and theme and create a concept and start filling in the details. And that's basically Sprint Zero. So what we do is we create the entire concept within Sprint Zero. From there, we create the user stories. And only then do we start with sprint 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is basically iterating on and on the automated. Yeah.
But can it happen that in some later stages you find out that some of the initial concepts were wrong? So do you come back and revise the strategy?
Always, always. Everything is an assumption in our job. So if it would be exact science, then yeah, I think it will be a different field. So all the time you do everything that you check, you go back to the strategy, but you don't change the basic strategy too much. On a technical level, you can steer a bit more, but on the strategy level, you have to really be conscious about the fact that it can take several years before the strategy is really proven. But you always look back.
Еще вопрос, пожалуйста.
Скажите, пожалуйста, а помогло ли зрелищность веб-сайта Новой Зеландии культуры, приток туризма или какой-то результат?
It's not my website, so I don't know the details. But spectacles should never stand in the way of the plot and the character and the theme. So in every case, spectacle can be good and it can be bad. I think mainly a lot of designers went to New Zealand, probably. But I don't know the details of the numbers.
Well, you're really handsome. Your wife is a large woman.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you about 1992. Have you tested it, and what was the result of your work?
Yeah. Okay. So we constantly do testing, and we try to control the data that we get, like what do Roosevelt for, and so the result that we've got with the new brand redesign is that people find it less technical and more like a friendly website. So we don't only test on numbers, quantitative, but also on the personality of the website. So do people really like it? And that actually has improved a lot. So and 9292 suddenly also in their own market, from being a follower, they become the leader again.
Еще вопросы? Есть желающие?
Thank you very much for the exciting presentation. And please advise how this concept would work for banking. When you have a plot.
For banking websites or banking in general?
Let's say for corporate banking, for example.
I think in the essence it should work because the plot, where do we want to go? It really starts with that essence, and I think for most banking it's the same. And it really becomes interesting, I think, for banking on the character and theme level. Because banking, in essence, they are very similar to each other. And if one bank wants to stand out, wants to make a difference, they cannot make a difference in the main facilitation, their main strategy, but they can make a difference in the tone and in the way they approach their customers and their clients. And for example, that they're more open, more direct. And that can help on this level. So I think you should mainly talk on the character level and not say everybody is our client, but maybe we should focus on a specific part, like elderly people or people who find banking very scary. And then you can start making a difference. Not if you focus on everybody all the time, then you're very generic. Is it in English or what?
По-русски. Как мы знаем, и фильмы, и некоторые сайты, да, бывают ужасные. Вот. Но сайты, в отличие от фильмов, живут своей жизнью и как бы развиваются.
И если стоит задача скорректировать там внешний уровень, да, у сайта, это возможно. Но если у сайта плохая стратегическая вот это вот ядро, ну, то есть возможно ли возьмать лучшую сторону и, собственно, скорректировать вот эту вот основополагающую часть?
Okay. I think I understand the question. I would have a question back. What is an awful plot? I have to put it again my ear again. Can you tell me what is an awful plot for you?
То есть плохо проработанный сюжет, то есть основная концепция сайта.
Okay, bad concept. If you've got a bad concept, then nothing will work. That's basically that's the problem. So first of all, the plot should be good, and the theme, the concept. If you don't have a good concept, tell the design lead, tell the client, and be honest and say, if we start moving in this direction and really start to you really start to pay money to us, then it's mainly lost because the essence isn't good. The basic story or basic structure isn't good, and we don't believe in it. So that's basically it.
Спасибо за ваш доклад. Хотел бы вернуться к сайту nidерландском. В свое время я очень много посмотрел, как он сделан. Тем не менее, как вы сами показали, заказчик отказался от него в сторону практичности. Соответственно, вопрос следующий. Вот ваше предложение и вот эта вся концепция, не кажется ли вам, что все-таки это средство дизайнера убежать в какой-то свой иллюзорный мир? Каким образом, где вот в вашей концепции KPI, бизнес-цели и некий холодный расчет все-таки? Вот хорошо это видно на примере сайта New Zealand. Вы создали красивую концепцию, там все очень хорошо смотрится, интересно. При этом сайт все равно изменился в сторону практичности. Заказчик дважды, получается, потратился.
I agree. No, one of the biggest problems is that designers learn to create beautiful stuff, and we learn to sell beautiful stuff. So mainly, we say to clients, look how beautiful this is. This is the best, fastest car possible, and it will go 300 miles an hour. And maybe the client doesn't want that. The client just wants a safe car that brings people as soon as possible to their work. So, yeah, as designers, we should not always focus on our own coolness, but also on especially on the client who pays us in the end. Yes.
Есть еще вопрос?
Спасибо за интересный рассказ. Расскажите, пожалуйста, вот как ложится эта концепция на разработку сайтов? В целом понятно. Было ли в вашей практике приложение этой концепции на разработку приложений, то есть программ, разработку продуктов?
Yes. For 9292 again, it's we created the application for the people answering the phones. And it's basically the entire same structure. So the way applications are more functional, but in the end they should also have a basic goal that they want to reach. They have characters that interact with them. They have a certain flow, etc., etc. So you can use the same structure. And I can imagine that somebody can come up with a case where this is not true, but try me.
Хорошо. Вопросы не иссякли? Или иссякли? Все. Есть.
Скажите, пожалуйста, какие документы фиксируют каждый из этих трех этапов? Сюжет, первый круг, второй круг, третий круг. Есть какие-то особенные документы, которые отличаются от общепринятых практик Agile, Scrum?
No, they're actually the same. The deliverables, as I call them, for plot, is basically the deliverables that a strategist comes up with. And for character, it's personas, it's a brand document. For theme, it's the concept. So if you make a concept in a storyboard or it's a PowerPoint, you can do it the way you want it. It's the same. And also for Agile. Yeah.
Еще вопросы? Нет? Тогда все. Спасибо.